Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we find ourselves in Fremont, Ohio, here in the bottom floor of the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library and Museum. There's a very special section right now. This is Ohio and Unnatural History, and this is going to teach us all about the local cryptids and sightings and paranormal things going on in this state. You know we got to check it out, so tag along.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
The world of cryptids and paranormal is a fascinating and beautiful one indeed. From jackalopes to unicorns to ghosts and Sasquatch, you never quite know what it is that you're going to find next. Even in our modern world with the sophisticated technology that we have, folklore holds a strong place in our hearts and minds. Even things like ghost stories still prevail to this very day and entertain and scare us. This is a fun activity. You actually get to create your own cryptid. As you can see, many visitors come through and draw their own thing. We have Boggy, the flying froggy here, nice and round. We have the alien cat meow, all right. That continues to this wall. This actually shows you the cryptid characteristics, different things. We have antlers, antenna, whiskers, beak, teeth, unicorn horn, and then their body could have scales, stripes, quills. You actually have a little activity where you can roll these dice to help you determine what you should be drawing. But some of these drawings are amazing. This is the dog man here. This, one of my favorites, this is Bob. So be on the lookout for him if you're ever in Ohio. The ware-footed death rat. And this lovely drawing of Mothman. Pretty neat. Let's see what else we can find. Ghosts in the spirit world are very controversial. Here there was some research that talked about how many people that they surveyed actually believed they'd been in contact with someone who had died or seen a ghost themselves. The numbers were pretty interesting. To give you an idea of just how many paranormal encounters there are to be had in Ohio, this massive map has been put together. There's all different things on here depending on what you're looking for. We have these little symbols here. These are all Bigfoot sightings that have been in the area. These right here, you check the legend. That is haunted places. So wow, what a haunted state here. This one is encounters of the third kind. So this is people that have actually encountered alien life and the dates that it happened. They've also put little things on here, just different oddities, such as, let's see, just the different inns, the Huffman Mound. Lots of really awesome things, tons of information on here. This whole paragraph about Bigfoot, places that he has been seen. Then down here, you're getting not only your legend, but the different highways. You've got eco-regions here of different things of who you may see, what kind of cryptids hang out in that area. And then I really like that you actually get to learn of it. Like this, even though it's West Virginia, they've got a little bit about Mothman. This is, of course, where he was first sighted, so this whole section's about him. The men in black who keep all the alien activity under wraps. It is a fascinating map. Personally, I wish they had one of these for every state. Diving into paranormal studies, there's a lot of different categories you can actually put it into, be it ghosts, aliens, cryptids, psychic abilities, things like that all kind of fall under the same umbrella. It varies how much people tend to believe or not believe in these things, so you got to see a little bit of those numbers and some of the history behind people who have researched and spent their lives investigating the paranormal. And then before we got in with the creatures, there was this nice little sign just to warn you that anybody sensitive to this kind of thing may not want to keep going. One of the quirkier cryptids that comes out of Ohio is the Loveland Frog. This is actually a big frog man. There was a police officer that first encountered it and just thought it was some kind of animal on the road, but when he tried to approach it, it stood up and looked at him before running off. This is a possible picture of one of the Loveland Frogs. You can see his eyes looking back out of the water. And of course, this does harken back to a lot of things, such as Creature from the Black Lagoon. You know, the murky depths of the swamps and things have always been a mystery to people. So why not big frog people?
Another intriguing case is that of the Melon Heads. These childlike, bulbous head creatures were possibly created by the government and then put up in a cabin in the woods where they were supposed to be contained as part of a cover-up. However, some escaped and fled into the trees, and anybody that saw them only saw them for a second because they would run off. And in other stories, it was just mad scientists who would kidnap people and then turn them into these huge-headed creatures. Whatever the true story may be, it's certainly intriguing to think what could create something like this.
Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, is probably the most recognizable cryptid in the entire world. There are thousands upon thousands of sightings, and of course, lots of them here in Ohio. Here, one variation of him is the Ohio Grassman, and there's been sightings of him as recently as 2017 here in Fremont, in this very city. Even better with this one, they have some footprint castings that were left behind. These are massive. This one is from 2015, so again, very recent. And that one's just 2000, so not that far off. I think out of all the cryptids out there, Bigfoot is probably one of the ones that has the most evidence and the most credibility behind his legend.
And while Bigfoot may be one of the most seen creatures, he's certainly not the only one in the woods.
Wedgies are another cryptid that exists pretty much up in this area. They're around kind of the Great Lakes region and the Canadian border. These spring from Native American folklore, things like that. They claim that these are magical beings who tend to have a somewhat bad demeanor. They're very mischievous. Supposedly they can talk. They're very short. They look kind of a cross between something like a little bear cub and a porcupine. This is a picture of it here. As you can see, they even can use weapons and have some clothing. There's been reports as recently as 2015 of people encountering these things and them speaking to them in an odd language that they don't understand and trying to get people to follow them. These would definitely be an interesting thing to run across, I think.
Too many people tend to forget that Native Americans were the very root of this country and have been on this land far longer than the European settlements. Because of this, it may do us well to consider their folklore and legends and all of their oral history that's been handed down about the many spirits and creatures and things that happen to lay out there. The history of early Ohio is chock full of different tales of giants who roamed the land and spirits who lived among us. That's actually probably not that far off. We look at Robert Wadlow, who was almost 9 feet tall in kind of a more modern day, but maybe back then people of that height were normal and just happened to be everywhere. But one being who certainly isn't everywhere is Mothman. Mothman's most famous appearance occurred in West Virginia, but he's been sighted a couple of times right around there and Ohio. Some say he's from another dimension, some say he's here to help us out and warn us about coming danger. Who knows what the real story is behind this famous cryptid?
Ohio is also home to countless numbers of UFO sightings and experiences. One very popular one that they highlight here in the museum was in 1966, and in this one, somebody called into the police and were like, hey, I see something going on. The police also saw it up in the sky. It looked like something silver, and there was something that they called a flashlight-like beam coming down. They began pursuing it, trying to find it. The police followed this object through the sky for 86 miles before losing it. They talked to the Air Force investigated, and eventually the Air Force put out saying that it was simply a satellite that was reflecting down, and the police completely dismissed this. They said there's no way that that's what they've seen. But of course, once the government has said something, that's kind of the official story. This goes over all the details of that. Project Blue Book, which of course documented many UFO sightings across the country, and just kind of the correlation in the state and how many times people have looked up and seen something strange.
They don't always have to be looking up to see something strange, though, such as right here, the case of the Headless Motorcyclist. There are several different stories about how the motorcyclist originally crashed and lost his head, but one thing people can agree on is that he's still out there, riding the highways, trying to find a new head to put on. Very much reminds me of the Headless Horseman, but I guess this is kind of an upgrade for the 21st century. Traded in his horse for a motorcycle. Why not?
One of the defining features up in this part of the country is the Great Lakes, these massive bodies of water, and with that comes tales of a monster. Very similar to Nessie over in Loch Ness, this is Bessie, the supposed lake monster of Lake Erie. There has been numerous reported sightings, and actually very, very recently this has started coming back up in the news. There's been recent sightings this year of this supposed sea monster. But here are some of the artist interpretations of what Bessie may look like out there in the water. And who knows, maybe someday we'll get a chance to come face to face with this creature.
But you don't always have to go looking underwater to find a new creature, as we see with our next friend.
This story is all about the Dogman of Defiance. Though very similar to a werewolf, not quite the same. This details different sightings that have happened to him. This is even an actual article here where they were interviewing the police, and it's saying that the police are not taking lightly the werewolf cases in the area. There's a lot of sightings of a large beast attacking. There was a rail worker who even said that this Dogman hit him in the head with a giant piece of metal. So, not sure what it is out there, but stay safe if you happen to be in these counties.
Ohio specifically is certainly filled with a lot of mysterious things just waiting to be discovered. But as a matter of fact, I think that holds true for the entire world. In the same way that there's a few common things that bring all of humanity together, I think searching for and trying to understand the unknown is one of those things. No matter where you're from, no matter how you were raised, there's something inside you that yearns to solve mysteries when they come up. Even as science advances and technology continues to grow, it's fascinating that these same old mysteries still stick around. If anything, the new advances actually just bring up more questions and spur us on to find more knowledge about cryptids and the paranormal. It's actually kind of nice to know that even in the age of internet, there are still mysteries to be found, and that not everything has already been discovered. So if you get a chance, get out there, see what you can find. Who knows what might be lurking right around the corner.
Well, I think this has certainly given us a lot of things to research for some future episodes and adventures. Thanks for tagging along. My name is David, and this has been Abnormal Voyages. We'll see you in the next one.